Welcome to Sunderland Talks. I'm Helen Edmonds, and today we're doing the current state of engineering with Dave Napton. Hello, Dave.
Hello.
Dave Napton is the acting head of School of Engineering within the Faculty of Technology. He's a graduate of the University of Sunderland himself, having studied BSc Hons Product Design with Management before gaining valuable experience as a design engineer with the Tier 1 automotive supply chain. And his research interests lie in the area of engineering pedagogy, which I was a bit worried about saying, so I've had to think about that one.
It's taken me some practice.
We thought you could tell us a little bit about Sunderland's sort of heritage and history with engineering.
Yeah, absolutely. Sunderland is very proud of its rich heritage of engineering prowess, and the North East in a wider sense as well. Within the North East, public railways were invented. The friction match that we use to create fires and light things, hydraulic cranes, hydroelectric power, light bulbs, steam turbine, and even the windscreen wiper. It was all invented in the North East. And we're actually sat on the site of an old shipyard. So in the middle of last century, this was an absolute hive of activity here, which is now the St Peter's campus on the riverside. And hundreds of ships were made and built and set sail around the world, and I'm sure some of them are still sailing around the world. So it's a real sort of important part of the city and the North East in its wider sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Could you tell us a little bit about your research?
Well, the research builds on that heritage, I guess. A lot of those industries have gone, we're sorry to say, but it's still a very, very vibrant sector. Manufacturing contributes to 23% of the entire UK turnover, so it's a big thing, the fact that the country still has a manufacturing industry. For every one job in engineering, it creates another 1.74 jobs out with support services and sectors and logistics, supply chains and all sorts of things. And we're currently in a bit of a situation with a skills gap, as many sectors are. We hear it on the news all the time. Lots of sectors are struggling for the right level skills. 124,000 engineers and technicians are required every year within the UK, and 20,000 of those need to be engineering graduate level positions. And that's for a number of reasons. Number one, the workforce that we have is ageing, so there's a vast proportion of people out there in the workforce who will retire in the next sort of 10 to 15 years, if not sooner. It's about the UK reaching its economic potential. You'll probably remember the financial slowdown, mid-2000s, 2007, 2008. We're doing very well to recover from that, but we are still recovering. So we need the right level of skills out there in industry making this product that we can sell. But above all as well, there's new technology out there. And new technology emerging all the time, and it's important as a workforce that we have the right skills to be able to work with that technology. So addressing the skills shortage, government policy has stepped in. Young people now in school are much more aware of STEM. For anybody that's not aware of that term, it's science, technology, engineering and maths subjects. So there's a whole load of initiatives out there to raise awareness of STEM and the great careers that are there in STEM. They are rewarding careers that have lots of spin-offs, opportunities to travel the world. Having worked in the manufacturing industry myself, I've been able to travel on someone else's expense. That was fantastic. And to get out there, we're working in a big multinational world these days. So there's lots of initiatives to excite young people and to get them into education and consider those careers. And I'm just conscious that as a higher education sector, we need to make sure that those young people who are coming through have the right opportunities, the right skills and the right pedagogic style to be able to reach their potential and find their place in the jobs market. Yeah,
so you think that we should be encouraging children from a young age really to be interested in engineering? Because I think, just from personal experience, when I was little, I'm not sure I would have really known what an engineer did. And when I was at school, obviously maths is a big part of engineering, and maths wasn't my strong point, so that might have put me off. And I think as a country we're not as confident in our maths ability as possibly other countries are. I don't know if that's just my perspective.
Yeah, I
think some people find maths scary.
Possibly. You know, for some people, it's the maths that turn them off. Yes, it is a technical subject, but that's why it's so well paid. You know, it's in the top 5 professions. You know, professional jobs in terms of salary expectation. I think going back to, and I'm maybe misselling the picture here actually when we think about it. When we go back to the heritage of all that heavy industry, you know, it was a dirty, not a very pleasant environment to work in. And I think as a nation, we're still trying to shake off that stereotype. But it's really, really pleasing to see now that, you know, if you go into a modern manufacturing high volume factory that's turning out product, it's a very, very clean environment, very, very health and safety workforce conscious as well, and they are pleasant places to be in. You know, employability laws helped there, as well as it's really exciting high tech things. So we see, you know, engineers now working on robots, whereas it's not the bloke in his boiler suit getting his hands dirty all the time. I was just about to say that, because that's one of the stereotypes we always try to get rid of, because whenever people say engineers, they always make the joke about building bridges. And but the man in a boiler suit fixing a car, that's what people think, and that's really not what it is. And so we always try and reinforce that that's not what an engineer does. That's right. And outside the UK as well, to call yourself an engineer, it is you know, sort of a safeguard in Germany, for example. You know, it's a safeguarded title that you've got to have you know, certain qualifications and things in place to call yourself an engineer, like we might call ourselves a doctor, a medical doctor. You've got to have had a certain medical training for that. It's exactly the same for engineering elsewhere. So maybe as a country we're not doing ourselves any favours there as well. But, you know, high tech, really exciting, cutting edge technology, that's what you find in a modern day manufacturing facility. The question I'm going to ask you, I'm not really sure whether you can even answer this, because I think it will have so many different answers. But I think probably for people who we would consider to be, they could be brilliant engineers, but they might not know actually what an engineer does. What is an engineer? What does an engineer do? I think if you went out there and asked 100 different engineers that question, you'd get 100 different answers, if not more. But for me, it's somebody who uses technical skill, technical knowledge, and they apply it to real world problems, and they make the world a better place. You know, they're solving problems to help society, to help the economy, to help people around the world, and all sorts of things. It's interesting to put it in that context as well. The UK has something called the Engineering Council, of which there are 35 bodies which kind of sit underneath there, and all work as part, and they're mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, they are civil engineers, chemical engineers, the Institute of Physics is in there as well. And if you look at the top 5 of those, all of those have as a strapline or in the first paragraph on their website, they're talking about shaping the world, they're talking about engineering a better future, they're talking about improving lives and real societal impact as well. So it's not just about getting your hands dirty making something, it's about getting out there and making a difference in the world. I remember one of our past graduates, he focused on, I can't remember which company he went to work for, but he was building or helping to build medical equipment. I always remember that as like one of our graduates did that. I think it was Adash. Right. And I always talk about him at open days, because I think people, as you say, maybe picture engineers, as you say, getting their hands dirty and things, but he was actually making an impact in the health sector, not, you know, the stereotype of. When you think of engineering as well, you know, you might have the stereotypical image, but I think if you're aware of manufacturing, you'll think of the obvious things of making bridges, you'll think of transportation, you'll think of rail and air and all of these sorts of things. But engineering touches everywhere. You know, we're in a recording studio now, all of the electrical equipment around us, the chairs we sat on, the building that we're in, the clothes we're wearing, you don't necessarily think of them as being engineered, but the machines that have made them will have been engineered. How raw materials were harvested from the earth and how they're changed into useful products and how they're returned to the earth, it's all engineered. So everything we do, everything we touch is engineered. And some of those stories of graduates going into medical areas, they're the ones where I get a real sense of satisfaction out of as well, because you know they're having a real impact on people's lives, making medicine more affordable so they can go around the world and more people can benefit from that. Exactly, that's why I like using him as an example. Absolutely. So we've covered a little bit about the skills gap, and I think one of the biggest gaps really is we talk a lot about women in engineering, and we want to encourage more women to get into engineering, and
I think one of the biggest things about being an engineer is problem solving, and I think a lot of women are very good at problem solving. Obviously, a lot of men are as well. But so there's obviously a gap somewhere where it falls off. And I was reading an article in The Guardian recently. It came out in the summer, but when I was doing a bit of research for this podcast, I had a little look at it. And the headline was "Female Scientists Urge Research Grants Reform to Tackle Gender Bias." And it was the Guardian did a Freedom of Information request to the Engineering and Physical Sciences Research Council.
It's not what I'm personally familiar with, but yeah.
Well, the data from this Freedom of Information request revealed that 90% of research grants awarded in the field of engineering and physical sciences have been given to projects led by men. So these women were behind this, were obviously very upset about this and trying to look at that. You know, women are 50% of the population. You know, we might be missing out on these great ideas. Is there a particular reason why, like, just your own opinion or thoughts, on why there are less women in engineering?
Well, these are my own opinions and thoughts, but I think you're absolutely right. It's obvious when you think about it, but the population is approximately 50-50, male and female gender split. Unfortunately, in engineering and other STEM areas, although not all, it's far from that in terms of the workforce. So I think it's probably around sort of 10 to 13% now. Engineering workforce is female. So statistically speaking, if everybody put in a research grant, there is going to be a much smaller proportion of females who are awarded that. But I think the trends are changing. The trends are certainly improving. That we're getting more towards a gender balance. It's something here at Sunderland in the Faculty of Technology we're very conscious of, and we've got specific projects on the go to try and address that and to encourage more females into engineering. Because when you look at it in the context of the skills gap, and only half of the population are typically interested in those sorts of jobs, then that's somewhere we can help address that balance, and help all of those other reasons of reversing the trends of the ageing workforce and the economic potential as well.
I think we were talking just before we started recording about a conversation we had a few weeks ago about how you found that when you have cohorts where the gender split's more balanced, you found as a group, the group seem to work better together, and I found that quite interesting. Yeah,
I mean, we've already said, just while we have been recording, that problem solving is a big part of engineering, and working in teams across organisations and across projects. That's also really, really important. So we try and mimic that within the curriculum. We try and mimic that in the classroom as well. So it's not uncommon to walk into an engineering module, a lecture, a tutorial, and see groups of students working together. Research from other areas, and I remember watching a thing around the TV programme Dragon's Den. Large corporations are now trying to address the gender balance on their management executive board as well, because there's some phenomena where groups of people work better when there's a better gender balance. I'm not really sure of the scientific reasons behind that, but I think men and women are different, and they clearly think differently, generally as well. So it's about having more bases covered in your thinking if you've got that gender balance. I think the Trues also said that if you had an entire female group, that they don't perform as well as a mixed group as well. We should maybe speak to some of our colleagues in psychology and try and work out why that is. Maybe that's the next podcast.
I suppose that's what, if I'm coming at it from a feminist slant, feminism is all about equality, so not for women or for men, it's about
that's right.
It is about that balance.
That's right, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, which, as you say, we are trying to tackle in the faculty, which is good. I
think maybe one of the things we need to address there is, why is it not an attractive career path for women generally? Why are more women not going into there? And some of it might be that they feel in the minority. For the first time in my career ever, I was at a Women in STEM conference recently, and I was in the minority, and it was unnerving at times. It was interesting. It was really, really interesting to experience that. But as well, I think if we address the image of engineering, as we've already discussed, that it's not about getting your hands dirty. It's about working in highly skilled, high-tech industries. That's appealing to men and women, and it's about getting that message out there.
Absolutely. As I say, I think, again, just drawing on personal experience, I'm not sure that, I think if I'd known then, as when I was deciding what I wanted to do in a career, what I know now about engineering, I might have considered it, because I quite like problem solving and trying to work things out, and actually possibly that's a skill I could have drawn on.
Well, I'm going to pick up on that point. I know this isn't why you've asked the question, but there are opportunities now to convert into engineering and into computing as well within technology. Particularly for people who might have their first degree in another STEM area and with some technical aptitude. But of course, engineering doesn't just rely on that STEM skill base. It relies on lots of other professional skills as well. Resilience, that's required in every industry now, but the ability to adapt to new technology, to learn new things, to problem solve, to manage projects, you can do that to some extent aside of your technical skill. So there are opportunities for people who may be out there, maybe listening to the podcast. I'd love to speak to you if you think, well, I wish I'd chosen engineering as well, because there are opportunities to change later on in your career.
And I think even if you've come from a degree where it seems the complete opposite, like my degree was psychology, which you think is the complete opposite of engineering, but actually I think they're more closely linked than you'd first think.
And there's obviously reliance on the scientific background and analytical thinking and that kind of thing as well. We've recently launched a program, and it's not here to give the hard sell, but we have had, it was set up as a conversion program to get people into the manufacturing industry. Imagine a company who's hired a robot, for example. It might be a totally new piece of technology for them. They get some consultants to come in and to program the robot and set it up, which is brilliant, and it increases productivity. But as soon as they want to change that, because it's new technology, it might not be a traditional engineer's skill base to then be able to change that. So they might need some computing help, or they might need some a business analyst to come and see how it can improve and things. So the manufacturing course, MSc in manufacturing engineering, was set up to do exactly that, to take people from competent areas and to be able to retrain them to be able to work in these new emerging environments. So we've had students there from business who've now come across being an engineer. One's actually studying a PhD now, actually, but then skilled to work in these new areas. So
it's good really for students who, because somebody who's maybe done a degree in engineering might come at a problem from a completely different perspective from, say, a student who did business. He might have come at it from it's good to share those different experiences.
Absolutely. A lot of my industrial experience was as a product designer, and I often worked alongside artists. They would design what it was supposed to look like, and then I would work out how we would make it. If you'd left me to design it, every car would have been square, and nobody would have bought it because it wouldn't have looked right. And they might not have been able to address the manufacturing requirements of that. So we need to work in these multidisciplinary areas.
I think, just coming back to the women engineering point, I think what would be good is some role models for people to look up and go, oh yes, that famous female engineer, and someone who's maybe worked on a big project that we all know about, or even invented something which I would consider myself a lay person of engineering. Slightly, I know a little bit more than I did a few years ago. But is there anybody you can think of off the top of your head? Well,
you're putting me under pressure now, and I'm going to struggle. I'll think of them all as soon as I walk out the studio. Naomi Clymer was the president of the Institution of Engineering and Technology, a professional body that we work closely with. She's also the CEO, I thought I've got that title right, of Sony International as well. Really influential. So there are people out there, working at that high serious level. It's really great this year as well. We run a Formula Student project. Team captain this year, Beth Herod is female team captain. We've had female team captains. We'd have to look at the stats over the years to see how the team performed better or worse with a female at the helm. But like I said, the students we have on our courses do very well. They go out and get placements and they perform very, very well, which is really encouraging.
It's very encouraging, I think, for people coming up as well, to see that
absolutely
everyone have done well. As part of more, again, a little bit of research I did for this podcast, I was looking at the Women's Engineering Society. They've got their own webpage, and one thing they've got is the top 50 women in engineering list, which I assume they must do every year. And it said in 2018 their theme was, they must have a different theme every year. The theme was returners and transferers, and the nominations were available to women working in engineering or allied sector discipline having returned after a break of at least 18 months or transferred to engineering from another sector, which kind of links in with the MSc manufacturing conversion course. They may well have come from a completely different completely different discipline in engineering. So they had this big long list. If anybody's interested, you can just Google the Women's Engineering Society and have it on their page with a lovely photo of all the 50 women. It was actually really encouraging for me as a woman to look at these people and see how well they've done, and they've worked at some amazing places. So I just plucked a couple at random just for this. So that there's Katie Atkinson, who's a materials engineer at Jaguar Land Rover, and Emma Browning, who's an environment manager at Scottish Power Renewables, and Dr. Sarah Chen, who's a civil engineer at EDF Energy. So I picked those three just because they were quite different roles. You might not think they're that different, but they appeared different to me. Just I was trying to show the breadth of roles that they've gone into. So yeah, the full list's there, and I just think it's quite inspiring.
I'll be interested to have a look at that. Yeah.
And I quite like the theme as well, because it showed that, one thing that's talked about quite a lot is whether, especially with the gender pay gap stuff that's been in the news recently, is whether that's because women sometimes take a break to start a family, for example, and then having to come back and sort of catch up with the men who might have carried on in that time. So I quite like the theme, because it showed these women have come back and gone on to achieve great things, which is
I think I would also add to that as well that society is much more geared towards the employee now than it has been in over decades. And I think engineering is such a wide field that even if you want to take a slightly different route in your career, there's other jobs there. If you've got a family at home and you want to be more at home, you want to reduce hours or whatever else, there's opportunities to do that and still use your engineering skills. I've got friends who've done exactly that, and they've maybe gone into more of an office role and reduced their hours, or other things. Not that you have to reduce the hours even, but there's lots of opportunities within the sector and within the sectors to pick your niche in there and do something different. Yeah,
I think one thing we were going to mention about the women in engineering theme is that it's International Women in Engineering Day in June.
That's right.
And we celebrate it at the university every year.
Yep.
Whether that's something simple as a social media post, or whether we do something on campus, and we have done things on campus in the past. So I think this year we're aiming to do something with school students on campus. So again, I'm putting you on the spot here, but can you think of the sort of things we might do?
Well, to be honest, we're still refining the schedule and the exact content of that day. But really, with any of our recruitment events, and that'll be no different. It's about making young people aware of the opportunities that are out there, and hopefully consider something that they wouldn't have otherwise considered, and realise the potential that's there for them. Some people will come along and look at that and decide against it. That's absolutely fine, but at least people are making an informed choice, and that's my passion. That's my passion. It's about people reaching their potential in whatever field, but doing that from a position of being informed. So we look forward to pushing that out to this specific niche audience.
I've sort of come to the end of the questions I had for you, but is there anything that we haven't covered that you want to cover?
No, I think it's about building on that heritage. It's about addressing the skills gap for the modern manufacturing world, and a whole load of problems we haven't yet found, which is really exciting. People can go out and they'll be working in jobs and solving problems that we don't even know exist yet, and that's really encouraging. But just to finish, I would recommend. I couldn't recommend engineering strongly enough. I've worked there, as many of my colleagues have. It's a really challenging, yes, but it's a rewarding career which has lots of other opportunities and real sense of satisfaction at the end of the day. So
yeah, that's a good note to end on.
Yeah, so. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I've enjoyed the chat.